Last night at the Dolby Theatre in Los Angeles, at the 2026 iHeartRadio Music Awards, something happened that neither the music world nor the sports world saw coming. Two of the most famous women in America in March 2026 met on a stage, in front of a room full of the biggest names in entertainment, and said things to each other that the internet immediately decided were the most important things said at any awards show this year. One of them is the most decorated artist in iHeartRadio history. 7 wins last night alone. 41 total across the show's 12-year history. Engaged to a tight end. Sold out every stadium she has ever performed in. Narrated an Olympic promotional video for NBC Sports in February. The other one is the double Olympic gold medalist who credited Taylor Swift for winning those gold medals in front of a live television audience. And then received the most generous and most emotionally complete compliment she has been paid since the hair flip went viral. This is the full story of last night. Every moment of it. Every quote. Every reaction. Every layer of context that makes the Taylor Swift and Alysa Liu story not just a celebrity crossover moment but something that captures exactly where both of these women are in their lives right now and why their meeting on that stage was more perfect than anyone could have scripted. Let us start with the backstory. Because the moment at the iHeartRadio Awards last night was not the first time Taylor Swift and Alysa Liu had been connected. It was the payoff of something that had been quietly building since before the Olympics even started. In the weeks leading up to the 2026 Milan Winter Olympics, NBC Sports produced a promotional video for Team USA's figure skating program. The video was called The Blade Angels. It featured Alysa Liu, Amber Glenn and Isabel Levito, the three women representing the United States in women's figure skating at the Games. And the person NBC Sports chose to narrate that video was Taylor Swift. This is not a random choice. Taylor Swift's 12th studio album The Life of a Showgirl had been released the previous October and was one of the biggest-selling albums of 2025. The title alone, The Life of a Showgirl, was a perfect thematic match for a figure skating promotional video about three women performing on the world's biggest stage. NBC Sports used Swift's music, specifically her song Opalite from that album, as the soundtrack for the video. And Swift narrated it with something that was clearly not generic promotional copy. She called the three figure skaters three American showgirls on ice who will capture your heart with their stories. And then she said something specifically about Alysa that was so precise and so emotionally accurate that it stopped people who watched the video cold. She said about Liu that she walked away from skating when she was 16 but then came back on her own terms. She said joy fuels her now. Every jump a celebration. Every performance a testament to the beauty of knowing yourself. Joy fuels her now. Every jump a celebration. Every performance a testament to the beauty of knowing yourself. Taylor Swift described Alysa Liu's comeback in 10 words better than most full articles have managed in thousands. She had clearly done the reading. She understood the story. And she narrated it with the specific emotional intelligence of someone who has spent her entire career understanding what it means to walk away from the version of yourself that the world built and come back as the version you actually are. Alysa Liu said in multiple interviews after the Olympics that she thought Taylor Swift narrating that video was why Team USA won the gold medal. She said it with the specific mixture of genuine gratitude and complete deadpan delivery that makes everything she says impossible to dismiss as a bit. She meant it. Taylor Swift's narration and Taylor Swift's music were in her ears in the lead-up to Milan and she credits that with something real. So when the iHeartRadio Awards called and asked her to present Swift with the Artist of the Year award, the circularity of the moment was not lost on Alysa. She was being asked to hand an award to the person she had been crediting for her gold medals. The most famous musician alive was going to receive a trophy from the person whose Olympics she had helped narrate. She showed up at the Dolby Theatre in her signature halo hair. She took the stage to what NBC Sports described as one of the biggest standing ovations of the night. Not the polite applause that presenters typically receive. A genuine crowd response to someone the entire building knew was significant. And then she spoke. She said that when she won the gold medal at the Olympics on her own terms, she was honored and happy to have achieved the performance she had long dreamed of. And then she said that presenting the next icon with the award for Artist of the Year is an incredibly huge honor for her. She rattled off Swift's credentials. 34 iHeartRadio Music Awards, the most in history. She called her the GOAT of music. At the word GOAT, the broadcast cut to Swift in the audience bowing her head bashfully with a smile she could not contain and Travis Kelce beaming beside her with the expression of a man watching his fiancée receive a compliment she deserved. And then Alysa Liu delivered the line of the night. She said Swift had lent her voice and music by narrating a video introducing her and the other Blade Angels. She let a pause land. And then she said, "I gotta say, I think that's why we won." The room erupted. Swift put her face in her hands. She buried her head in Kelce's shoulder. Kelce clapped with the biggest smile he had shown all night. And the internet, watching the broadcast, watching the clips, watching the reaction shots that Fox cut to with perfect timing, lost its collective mind. Because it was the most Alysa Liu thing that has ever happened. At the most prestigious awards show she had ever attended, on one of the biggest stages she had ever stood on, presenting the most famous musician in the world with an award, she found a way to be completely, totally, disarmingly herself. The in-and-out comment at the Vanity Fair Oscars party. The period response to the SNL skit. The serial photo and the Fortnite trash talk. And now this. "I gotta say, I think that's why we won." Delivered with a straight face. Absolutely lethal. Absolutely real. Then Taylor Swift walked onto that stage. She met Alysa Liu at the podium. They embraced for a long time. Both of them holding on. The hug was not a quick celebrity photo opportunity hug. It was the hug of two people who had been connected through something meaningful and were meeting in person for the first time and felt the weight of that. And then Swift began to speak. And she started not by thanking the voters or the label or the team. She started with Alysa. She said, "To receive this award from Alysa, who brought me and everyone else so much happiness with your performances." And then she said she was inspired by how much diligence and work and effort and love Alysa has for what she does. Diligence and work and effort and love. 4 words. From Taylor Swift. About Alysa Liu. On national television. In front of every major figure in the entertainment industry. And then she gave a speech that was addressed to her fans, but that felt like it was also addressed to every young person who has ever been in a room with someone whose talent is still forming, still growing, still finding its shape. She talked about the luxury of having thousands of hours unobserved as a preteen working on her craft. She said she wrote songs in her bedroom for years before anyone heard them. And she said this. That we live in a world where there is so much immediate feedback constantly. That everything you post gets feedback, whether it is good or bad or whatever. And she said if she had one hope for her fans, it would be this. That they get to nurture their hobby and their passion just between themselves and that craft. That they give themselves time. Give themselves time to make mistakes. Give themselves time to hone their craft. And then she said the line that is being quoted everywhere this morning. She said, "I am a firm believer that anything you feed your mind it will internalize. Anything you feed the internet it will attempt to kill. Anything you feed the internet it will attempt to kill." Taylor Swift, the most followed musician in the world, at an awards show, saying out loud that the internet destroys what it receives. She said it with the specific authority of someone who knows this from personal experience in a way almost nobody else alive does. Now here is the layer of this moment that nobody is fully connecting this morning, and it is the most important one. Taylor Swift just described Alysa Liu's entire career story in that speech without naming her directly. Think about what Alysa Liu's story is. She was a prodigy who became famous at 13. The internet found her. The coverage found her. The attention found her. She spent her entire childhood being fed to an audience that had opinions about her skating and her body and her scores and her choices and whether she was living up to her potential. And it broke her. At 16 she stopped. She went away. She nurtured her hobby and her passion just between herself and the craft for 2 years. She gave herself time to make mistakes. She gave herself time to hone who she was. And she came back when she was ready. On her own terms. Because joy fuels her now. Those are Taylor Swift's words from the Olympic promotional video. And they are also the precise description of what Taylor Swift was talking about in her speech last night about giving yourself time before the internet gets hold of you. 2 women in the same building. One of them the most famous musician alive. One of them the most famous winter athlete alive. Both of them with careers defined by the specific experience of being known too young and having to find their way back to themselves through the noise. Both of them standing on that stage at the Dolby Theatre, having both done it, both made it through, both arrived at a version of themselves that the internet could not kill because it was built in private first. The hug was long because they both understood what they were holding. Then came the backstage moment. After the awards, Swift and Kelce and Liu were caught on video hanging out backstage together. A casual, warm, unscripted 3-person conversation at the end of a long night. Travis Kelce, who had anonymously donated $10,000 to Layla Edwards' GoFundMe so her family could attend the Olympics, who had personally encouraged Layla before her first Olympic game, now in the same backstage room as the double Olympic gold medalist who had shared a closing ceremony moment with Layla in Milan. The same night. The same venue. Swift thanking Kelce for being her source of happiness. Kelce beaming every time Swift was called the GOAT. Liu presenting the award. The 3 of them backstage afterward. The connective tissue of American sports and American music and American celebrity in 2026 all in one green room at the Dolby Theatre. There is one more detail from last night that has not been fully covered, and it is the one that tells you where figure skating stands in American culture right now because of what Alysa Liu has done to it. Her fellow Blade Angels, Amber Glenn and Isabeau Levito, were competing in the women's free skate in Prague at exactly the same time the iHeartRadio Awards were happening in Los Angeles. The World Championships she chose not to attend were running simultaneously with the awards show she chose to be at. And the broadcast coverage, the clips, the trending topics. The volume of social media conversation was overwhelmingly weighted toward Los Angeles rather than Prague. Alysa Liu presenting Taylor Swift with an award in Hollywood generated more search traffic, more social media conversation and more mainstream media coverage than the World Figure Skating Championships happening simultaneously in the Czech Republic. A figure skater at an awards show outran the sport's own World Championship in terms of public attention. That is not a criticism of Prague or of Amber Glenn and Isabeau Levito who are competing with everything they have. It is a simple statement of fact about where the cultural gravity of figure skating currently lives. It lives in Alysa Liu. At the Dolby Theatre. Saying I gotta say I think that's why we won to the most famous musician in the world. Liu told the Associated Press after the show simply that Swift is so nice and that it was really cool and her speech was really good. 3 sentences. After one of the most watched moments at any awards show this year. After receiving a compliment from Taylor Swift on national television that went everywhere before she had even walked off the stage. After a long hug with the most famous woman in entertainment. After hanging out backstage with Swift and Kelce and being photographed in what TMZ called a moment that confirmed the night belonged to 3 people and not just one. She said it was really cool. She still has 8 million Instagram followers. She still has the Nike deal dropping April 30th and the Stars on Ice tour starting April 16th. She still has the key to Oakland and the mural in Temescal and the Vanity Fair GRWM video and the Fortnite trash talk and every other thing that has happened in the 47 days since the hair flip. And last night she stood on a stage at the Dolby Theatre and told the world that Taylor Swift's narration of a promotional video was why Team USA won Olympic gold. And Taylor Swift put her face in her hands and buried it in her fiancé's shoulder and then walked up and said she was inspired by Alysa's diligence and work and effort and love. 2 goats. 1 stage. 1 long hug. The duo the world never knew it needed showed up last night in Los Angeles. And the internet, which Taylor Swift told everyone it will attempt to kill whatever you feed it, is still talking about it this morning.